Hi, and welcome back to another episode of All the Cards on the Table. This week, we are going to explore what is actually needed to move through the different stages of a relationship so that when you move on to your next, you're not carrying the baggage from the last. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, everyone. You're listening to All Cards on the Table podcast with Claire and Sylvia, a show that talks about how men and women aren't so different from each other. We just don't speak the same language. We will dissect every topic and put an end to miscommunication. So, get ready to get uncomfortable. Hi and welcome back. My name is Claire Attio.
Hi everyone, this is Sylvia Haida.
And this week we're going to look at the 7 stages of breakup. It's really quite interesting because I know, had I had this information in my early breakups, with my first marriage, because I spent 13 years on my own after my first marriage, and I never allowed myself to go through the different processes. It was that British stiff of a lip and let's just get on with it. And of course, what ended up is I ended up taking all the unprocessed crap from my first relationship into my second. And so this week we want to discuss that, and we want to discuss how to avoid that, don't we, Sylvia?
Yeah. I actually don't know about this so much about the 7 stages of breakup uh to say. I mean, I've read some books on it and I know what the process is, but I've only learned that now. And I'm like, oh, that would have been nice to know this when I was younger and I was dating.
Yeah,
Because
because this doesn't just apply to long-term relationships or marriages. This applies to every relationship,
yeah, even friendships.
even friendships. Yeah. So it's very interesting how much we're learning and how much we're actually developing, and it's great to have that communication. Of course, we're from a generation where you just, as I said in the introduction, you just kind of suck it up and get on with it.
Yeah.
But the problem is that allows the dysfunction that was built within that relationship to continue on into another.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't allow you the freedom to really start to explore who you are as well, which we've talked a lot about in many, many episodes, because that is and we will continue to talk about it because it's so important to know
Yeah.
yourself.
And
So
that's the key, is knowing yourself. And for me, I always try to look at a relationship, what I learned from it, because you always learn a lot from a relationship. And I try not to focus so much that I was hurt. I try to see, um, yeah, of course, at the moment you're hurt because it's over and you're quite scared and everything's happening. But I've always taken the time to process the breakup. But that's only because I was told by a friend of mine, she was much older, that, and I don't know if she meant it in any way, shape, or form, but she was like, you need a month to process this and cry it out before you do anything else. But I didn't know what that meant. So it's like, you can't go on dates, you can't go do that, you can't go hang out with other boys, or, you take that time 1 month. And I don't know if that's true about the whole month thing, but I just took it a month. I'm talking about back in the
I think
days.
I think when it's that kind of puppy love stage and you're a
Yeah.
teenager and you are kind of exploring, then probably a month is a good measure stick. I mean, everybody's going to be different. Some will be 3 weeks, some will be 6 weeks, some will be 2 months,
Yeah. Yeah, no,
3 months, 6 months. It's all going to be different.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is no time, but she said, don't make any sudden moves for a month.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, like,
That's really
don't
good advice.
don't go and jumping into conclusions. Don't go and date somebody else just because you're hurt. Don't try to make the other person jealous. Don't make any movements. If you have to cry every day, cry every day. Don't talk bad or good, text. Don't just completely settle for a month. And then after the month, figure out what you want to do.
Well, you're giving yourself 30 days. Basically, what she was saying is give yourself time, which
Yeah.
is beautiful. It's bringing all the energy back to you and just focusing on you for a month, which is fantastic advice. I mean, I don't know about you, but I would kind of go, oh, dry your tears. There's more frogs to kiss.
Yeah. I mean, my other friends were like, from my ex to my next, or, oh, there's, that's one less frog you have to kiss to get to
Mhm,
your Prince Charming. You get that. But I do remember this particular friend, we were in high school. It's not, so she was just a couple, 2 years older than me. She was older, per
mhm.
se. So it wasn't like some guru or therapist or anything. It was something that I think she heard it from her parents or somebody must have told her as
Wise,
well.
wise words.
Wise words. And it was because at that time, yeah, like you said, it's high school. You're kind of dating around. It's not for real. At the time, it feels really for real that you're gonna marry your high school sweetheart and everything is gonna be great. And
Mhm.
so it felt very real. Um, for me, was I didn't take months. I think after 2 weeks, I was just like, you know what, I feel really good not having to talk to this person, and that's how I knew, that I was just like, was I hurt because I learned that I wasn't hurt because he broke up with me. I was ashamed that he broke up with me. I was embarrassed that I didn't, or almost angry that I didn't get to do it like he took the jump. But I didn't know that at the time. It's like after a while, I was like, oh wait, this actually feels really good, you know.
It usually does when you're young like that, doesn't it? It's like, yeah, yeah, you did me a favor, but you don't see that in time. That ego in, and it's like, oh,
Yeah, because you think that, you build those relationships and they are your whole world. At that time, it's just school and your friends, and they are become part of your identity. And then when
mhm.
that gets taken away, a part of you gets taken away. And I think one of the things I've learned as well is you don't identify with something that can be taken away because they take that away from you.
Well, it comes back to those programs and the whole structure of society where we are taught to fear change. We are taught to fear forward movements.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything is geared up that has us believing that the unknown is a scary thing, rather than the unknown is an unwritten book of which we get to write the story. And I love to kind of do that with people when I'm working with people, when they do have a real fear of the unknown, whatever's coming up for them, whatever situation in their life, and they're hitting that, everything's going to change. We really don't know what's in front of me. And it's a case of, well, you get to write what's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
If you can step away from that fear, if you can step away from the program's expectations, your beliefs of what is possible, and just expand your consciousness to the fact that anything is possible, you get to write that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's that we don't get that. We didn't get that. And in the education system today, they're still not getting it. They're still
Yeah.
not being taught that. They're being taught to have everything planned. You have to have a plan. You have to have a roadmap. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're putting them in boxes very, very early. And relationships are one of those big boxes that they try to put us in very, very early. But hopefully ourselves and many others that are out there doing podcasts and talks and different YouTube channels are going to change that, because we all need to expand. We all need to grow.
Yeah.
So
Learn from each other. Yeah,
we
absolutely.
learn from each other. Yeah. The seven, just going quickly through the 7 stages are denial, pain, and angst. Oh, excuse me. Guilt, bargaining, depression. And it's that, I love it, the way it's actually set out, because that depression takes you down. And we're not talking about full on medical depression here. For some people, that could be the case, in which case, go and get yourself help. But it's that downward of emotions, that spiral downwards. And you have to, and it's that You always have to hit rock bottom before you can actually come up, because
Yeah.
what comes up after the depression, the next
Yeah.
stage of that, is the upward turn, the reconstruction, and then finally the acceptance.
Hmm.
And if you can allow yourself to sit in each of those, and I think the one that most people skip is the pain, the angst, and the guilt, depending on which side of the fence the relationship broke up on. So if you've broken up with somebody, you'll try and skip over the guilt because it feels, oh, I've hurt somebody. Because we don't intentionally set out to hurt people. But if the relationship's not right and you feel you have to break it off, then you have to break it off. It's not right. It's that is how it is. That's how we learn. But of course, then again, we have all those programs of society of, oh, that's a really mean thing to do. Well, no, it wasn't. You've actually set that other person free. If you weren't able to give them unconditional love, unconditional respect,
Hmm.
unconditional consideration, then actually breaking it off, you're setting them free. So there's nothing to feel guilty about. But society has us believing, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And it's interesting we're doing this podcast today because I had a conversation yesterday with some friends, and a friend of a friend, their daughter was getting married, and a few weeks before the wedding, they actually called it off.
Mhm.
And the mother was up in arms and, oh my God, what are people going to think? And why did she leave it so late? And why did this? And why did that? And why did, obviously, it's a very stressful time.
Yeah.
And the rest of us kind of sat there and said, you know what? You should be really proud of her because she has done the most amazingly brave thing. If
Hmm.
she realized, because it's so much easier to go through with it and
Yeah.
keep the peace and keep everybody happy
Yeah.
than it is to say, I'm really not feeling right about this anymore.
True. That is very brave to do.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And a lot of people do go through that, to please everyone, to make everyone happy. And then they go really deep and, oh my God, we've already spent this much money. My parents spend this much money. Everyone's flying in. And that pressure of you continuing on a path that you know is not right for you, eventually you're going to break up
Yep.
and go separate ways. So that what she did was very brave. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, and at the end of the day, it's her life. She has to live it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it sucks, for I'm not sure what the circumstances, but I mean, it's unfortunate, but they did the right thing because
Mm-hmm.
they saved themselves from a lot of
Yeah.
future pain and problems.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. When you said about the first stage about the pain and not sitting with the pain, a lot of people deal with it differently. And one of the things that a lot of people don't like the feeling, it's because they're like you said, we were being programmed not to deal with pain and fear. And the way I remember of dealing with that was to occupy myself so I wouldn't feel it, or I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't feel it. I would
Mm-hmm.
surround myself with people. And it wasn't until, like I said, that friend that told me that I sat with it and it was all the ugliness, that I processed everything. I sat with the pain of feeling alone and abandoned in a sense. And I really needed to discover, why did it hurt so much? Because when I really sat with that, I realized it wasn't about him. It was something deeper about me.
Yeah.
And when I found out what that was very liberating because it
Mm-hmm.
was something that I had to deal with, the abandonment that for me was a childhood trauma that triggered it. Because in my heart, I kind of knew that I didn't want to be with this person, but the pain of being dumped, if you can say,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
triggered an abandonment issue. And of course, nobody wants to feel that. And some of us, like I said, we get busy not to feel our feelings.
Yeah, busy is a classic. I would say busy is one of those top ones. If you had to choose some top tactics, it's a word, diversion tactics, and that goes in with the denial as well, doesn't it? That keeping
Mhm.
busy, being denial, staying angry,
Yeah.
being on that moral pedestal. That is a great one. I have to confess to that one. I'll be honest. I stayed angry for a long, long time, and that saved me from feeling the pain and processing the pain. It's and so that is good because staying angry is I mean it's a really heavy energy as well to stay in
Yeah.
that, but it was preferable than the pain that I knew that was sat there as well. So, and a lot of people, so it's big, it's getting it's getting yourself into a space and a place where you can actually be honest of what's going on. And if you feel that you're not strong enough to deal with it, then get somebody to help you deal with it. Get somebody, and it doesn't have to be a counselor all the time. I mean, counselors are very good because they're very impartial. That's why counseling comes in, counseling or healers or the wise man or the wise woman or whatever your culture kind of did, you know, is on your spectrum. They're very good because they are impartial. If you try, and very often if you use family, you can you can sometimes be steered
Yeah.
down a
Yeah.
road that isn't fully aligned with who you are.
Exactly. But not only that, I think it's when you choose family to talk about your feelings in your breakup, they sometimes get tired of listening to you. I know that I have a few friends that are constantly telling me about something, and it's not until now that I realize that they're still talking about it because it still hurts. And
Mhm.
they're still talking about it because they haven't processed that. So I had to make space for them and let them talk it through all of it, the
Mhm.
whole entire process without interrupting, without questioning. And because I realize this is important when we talk about a subject over and over and over, it's because we haven't processed it. And we have to, and that's one thing I would say is that if you have a friend who just broke up and that's all they talk about, just listen to them because they really need it. We tend to listen to someone who just lost someone to death. We tend to be more empathetic. This is also the same thing because they're no longer together. Then it's somebody they're
Mhm.
apart. So it's to me it's the same process. So you have to listen to that. But at first I was very impatient. I was like, oh my God, get over it. you know, until now that I'm like, you know what, it's okay. You can talk about it as much as you want.
Well, again, it's because we have been it's I mean the one thing when somebody's going over and over and again this is interesting because I was talking to another coach just 2 weeks ago about this. It's that understanding that is coaches and healers when somebody's going over and over and over and there is no forward movement is because they're not ready. They're not in the energetic space to yet ready heal. And so you could give them all the tools in the toolbox and they could do absolutely nothing with it because they're not ready for it. And so it's having that understanding that as you just said, just listen,
Mhm.
just listen, because they need to go over that and go over that and go over that. The problem with that, I mean, and I'm going to share a phrase that my shamanic teacher always says: "Don't go on honeymoon with it.
yeah.
Don't go on honeymoon with it. Go over it and then put it aside." But that takes a lot of consciousness. And so you have to be at a certain level on your journey to, one, recognize that you're just going over and over and over, and two, also have the strength, have the strength within yourself and some of the spiritual tools that we constantly use to be able to go, right, okay, I can see what I'm doing there. I am no longer going on honeymoon with this anymore.
Yeah.
It's yeah, that's it. Gone over, process, time to heal.
Yeah. But that takes time, like you said,
It
it takes
does.
awareness. I know that I had this one lady and she talked about her ex-husband over and over and over in front of the new husband. how awful they were. And I remember I would just listen. And he would say, "You have so much patience." And I was like, "No, it's just she need if you keep interrupting them, telling them like everything's gonna be okay, don't worry, or agreeing like, oh yeah, he was such an asshole, I can't believe it, and agreeing with her or with him about what they're saying, then they will not get to listen to themselves as well, which means they're going to do it all over again because now they have new input, new data in their brain. So
Mm-hmm.
they're going to listen to that whole recording all over again. And then if you put more information in it, they're going to go over that recording again because it's a whole brand new recording because you added some new words and some new things. So that's why they keep talking over and over and over because they have to listen to all the new data that you just gave them, all the new. So, but if you don't say anything, they will listen to themselves fully until they are done. And then you'll see like this sign, like, okay, I finally heard myself. And I noticed when I did that with her, she did that. She was just like, okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
And never brought it up again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, and sometimes I'm gonna bring this up because this picture just came into my mind in like it must have been some cartoon that I saw or a show that I saw, I can't remember, where someone goes to this person who doesn't, he's mute and he can't hear, he's sitting there just smiling, and this person comes to them and just blabbering over everything, frustration, and oh my god, blah 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 blah, and he's just nodding, yes, yes, and that doesn't say a single word, and that other person kind of answers himself, and then at the end he goes, oh, that was so great, thank you, Anita, you're so wise, bye. That's what I'm talking about
Yeah.
why someone goes over and over
Yeah.
about.
Well, it allows the thing is people we're very quick to jump in with solutions, and it's
Mhm.
not, and we're forgetting that everybody needs to, we're working towards that sovereignty. Everybody needs to find their own solutions. We can't, we know the solutions for ourselves. We can jump in with the solutions we did for ourselves, but those are not the solutions for whoever's actually going through that. And so
Mhm.
to just be able to listen and be supportive with the facial expressions that you give, and as you said, a smile and a nod of the head. And
Mhm.
when you were saying that again, it reminded me of my shamanic teachers, because that is, and that is what they do with all of us, because we do a lot of deep level initiations on the courses, and so a lot of stuff comes up, this life, past life, ancestral stuff, I mean, it all comes up, and it all needs processing, and so we're and very often they will kind of they walk past, and they always seem to catch everybody in the car park. For some reason the car park seems to be the place, and I've
Mhm.
noticed this, I've been quite observant because I've done it myself, and you'll be the only one in the car park, and they're going into the class or they're coming out of the class, and you say, and you like verbal diarrhea, it's like blah, 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 and the two of them are like, they
Mhm.
never give an answer. Ever, ever.
For wise people.
And it's just absolutely ace. It's so powerful,
It
so
is.
powerful.
And
Yeah.
that's the best way you can help someone who just broke up, is just to be an active listener with no agenda. With that, so when you're going through that pain, it's like you said, the feeling all of it and then the anger. I think for me, the one that I have a problem with working with people is when they go through that anger phase, because that for me can be very dangerous as well, because then they do very dangerous things, vindictive things, getting even. And
Mm-hmm.
the way I would sometimes I ask them is just like, what are you going to gain from that? But I tend not to work with, I'm thinking because it's only men that I'm thinking of right now, because those are the ones that I work with. I tend not to work with men that are angry, because it doesn't matter what I say. The simple fact that I'm a female, they're not going to listen. They're going to project that into me, that I'm the same, that all women are the same.
Yeah, it's
Um,
interesting, isn't it? Because obviously you work mostly with men and I work mostly with women, and women use, I didn't realize that men do the anger as well. I know women do, but women tend to be vocal about it. They need to say what they're feeling, but they don't actually. I mean, obviously there are women that do act on it, but
mhm.
I've been fortunate enough that I've never worked with the women that have acted on it. I've worked with the women that have just stayed in that energy of anger because they don't want to feel that pain. And so
Yeah.
it is destructive, but it's destructive to themselves. And
Mhm.
so it's just trying to hold a space and, as you said, ask them, okay, how is that making you feel at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, I try not to, because it could potentially be very dangerous at that
Hmm.
stage.
Yeah.
So, but to the ones that I feel I can get to, the ones that I can, is just like, you need to seek professional help, because this is something you really need to deal with. Because they can do some very, very sneaky things. Like, one of them is stalking, first of all.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're angry, or calling the woman's job, or doing something really awful. Um, Not gonna get into that because I don't want that energy there. I just want to say, anger is one of the anger is when you are so hurt in your ego. For men, it's the ego that is so bruised up, they're so fogged, and they can't see past that. And that's when I say, you need to go away. You need to clear. You need to go out and either do something to put that energy on something else. And for men, because they tend to be destructive, I usually say, you know what? This is a good time for you to either take up something with high energy,
Hmm.
because you need to let that go, seek advice, seek a counselor as well. And I
And
mean,
and when we're sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there. When we're talking about professional help for this, we're talking about anger management specialists
yes.
because it needs to be just focused on that. You've got
Mhm.
a relationship therapist is not will take you through the different processes, but when somebody is that entrenched in that anger, that is when Sylvia or I would go, hold on a minute, you need to go and get specialist help for this.
Yeah.
And then we can come back and we can do the rest.
Hmm. Absolutely. You really do need a anger management
Hmm.
therapist, as well as, I would say, find yourself a good set of circle of people to help you as well. Uh, because it is, for me, in my field, that is one of the most dangerous ones, I would say,
Hmm.
because it can drive a man to do unthinkable things. Um, and I know women can too, but because you're so fucked up and you're not thinking, so we tend to do things that we later regret. One of the main things I always see with them, and I don't tell them, but I know that there is abandonment issues as a child right
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
So I tend to go, it's like, why were you angry? Let's talk about, okay, I'm angry at her because she did this. Okay, well, let's not talk about her. Let's talk about, walk me through your childhood. Let's find out. Okay, because this isn't about her. This is about you.
Yeah.
And of course, we usually tend to find something linked to a childhood trauma where they were angry at a parent, one of the parents.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that's for everyone, but that's usually tends to be where it goes.
I would actually say 99.9% of our dysfunction stems from our childhood.
From our childhood, yes, especially, but
I do
mostly it's
I do not want to put any disrespect on parents and the parenting because we know that kids don't come with a rule book and no parent or few parents set out to intentionally give their kids dysfunction or hang-ups. It's because they are kind of winging it through life as well. And this is why we have these podcasts. This is why we have that so many therapists now, because this is what we're trying to change.
yes. Like you said, it's as a parent myself, I always try to be the best I can be. with the knowledge that I know, but and I for my parents as well. So it has nothing to do with, oh, your parents set you out to be this angry person. It's just like they did, maybe they had a really tough upbringing to where they couldn't control their anger. And you know what? Something that I'm gonna bring up that nobody ever really talks about, it's that that anger is also inherited trauma and emotion, and
Hmm.
you don't even know
Hmm.
that it could be.
Hmm.
And right now we're actually looking in the psychology field about inherited emotional trauma. So that anger,
Hmm.
it's not probably not even yours, and it's probably somebody that you inherit that. So
Hmm.
that's something that you could look into. So if you're
Hmm.
angry right now, and if you're listening to this and you're angry, look into that. Look into and meditation and someone to help you to bring, maybe if you're like, no, my childhood was wonderful, there's some parents are wonderful, nothing happened, and you've gone through the process and you've gone through like some of the work and you can't find it, look into inherited emotion,
Yeah.
because that's the
Yeah.
one that also comes up a lot for
It's
men.
interesting, isn't it? Because on the energy field, we're actually doing a lot of that with ancestral imprinting, and
Mhm.
yeah, those lower vibrating emotions. Let's put it
Yes.
that way.
Yeah.
They a lot. There's a lot of work being done collectively to clear those
Yes, we are.
ancestral lines. So because it was actually coming down, it's been
Yeah.
coming down and it's been coming down. And the problem is, when we all know, if you oppress something,
Yeah.
eventually it's going to go off like a volcano.
Mm.
So with a lot of work has been done spiritually, energetically, to start clearing all those lineages. So but yeah, but you still will have the DNA imprinting, and that will affect the psychology of how you actually work. So what we're actually saying, bringing this to a close, is we're saying allow yourself the space and the time to go through each process. If you're finding one of the stages really hard, really difficult, if you find yourself, like what I always call like I mean, most people won't be able to get the analogy now, but like an old record player where the needle gets stuck and it's like, if you keep going over and over and over again, show my age now, aren't I? But if you're playing it over and over and over, if you actually, if you, it doesn't matter if you know how to deal with it. If you know you're doing that, reach out to somebody that you trust, that you know will be unbiased
Hmm.
onlooker, and say to them, look, I'm going to make your life really boring for the next week, 2 weeks, because I just need to keep repeating this. I
Yeah.
need to get this out, and I just need you to listen and not say a word
Hmm.
and
Absolutely.
get yourself through whatever stage that is that you are repeating. It could be that you're in anger because you're not wanting to face the pain. It could be in pain and you're in the woe me, and you've gone on honeymoon with your pain. And so you need to really kind of do a fast forward on that. So if it means sitting down with a friend and going over the story a million times in 24 hours, you know, do that. Stop the honeymoon
Mhm.
and
Absolutely.
move on to the next stage and go through the stage until you get to the acceptance. Because honestly, when you get to that acceptance, if you go, well, yeah, that was painful, but there was joy there was love there was laughter there was fun there, but it came to its end.
Hmm.
That's when you know you put all the bags down and you can walk into a new relationship, a new situation, free.
Hmm. True. With no baggage, no junk in your trunk, as we say in the US.
No drunk, no,
No.
no drunk in your trunk. I was
Or no drunk in your trunk too. Good.
Freudian slip there. Don't know where that came from. That comes from being up at 4 in the morning, doesn't it? But yeah, so that's it from me.
And me. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. We'd like to hear more from you. Till next time.
Bye bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so and please leave a review, as it helps us grow and bridge the gap between the sexes. If you have any topics you would like us to cover, shoot us an email. Until next time, go out and practice putting all your cards on the table with no judgment, expectations, and fear.